before I jump into creating the actual layout of the page, I want to get into the basics of what a section is, what a row is, and what a column is. Now, a lot of people get confused, especially when it comes to making a page mobile responsive and how to adjust columns or how to make things appear the way you want them to appear. And that's why I felt it's important that I cover the sections, the rows, and the columns part. So when you start with any template, there are multiple ways of getting a section. When I start with a blank one, it just starts with something like this, where it just tells me what type of section, how many columns do you want in the section, so on and so forth. So I can quickly select something like a 1 column, a 2 column, a 3 column. So what I'll do is I'll click on this 3 column layout like so. Now in here is where you would ideally want to drop elements into. When you click over here, the bar opens and you can drag something in there. So I can drag an image, maybe a video over here, and then maybe a button over here. And this is all strictly for showing you how the sections, rows, columns work. Now let's say we have these 3 items that we added in the 3 column step. When I click on the outside, you can see the blue indicators on each side. That tells me that I will be working on the section. Another way to find out where you are working on, meaning when you click on something, it shows its properties. For example, if I clicked on the image, it showed me that I'll be clicking on the image. If I bring my mouse on this, it highlights the blue border around it and it tells me that I will be editing the video. And if I, same thing over here, if I click on the button, it allows me to change the button. But sometimes we want to change the column, maybe the width of the column, maybe make it more mobile responsive, so on and so forth. So how do we go about doing that? Well, there are 2 ways of doing this. One is clicking on this manage layout, and you can see that this is the section that we're working on, and you can kind of see it bounces right when I bring my mouse over. Once I click on it, it goes deeper into the row because everything is created in rows at first, which is the horizontal kind of box that it creates, and you can see the blue indicator around it. So if I were to bring my mouse over the section, you can see the blue indicator outside. When I bring my mouse over the row, it brings the indicator inside of that particular element or that particular item. Once I click on the row like this, I have access to each column. Okay, now I can click on settings right here, and that brings the settings of the column. So you can see that I can change the width of it on a desktop. I can change the width of it. You cannot see it over here, but if I switch this mobile, I can switch the width of how I want certain things to look like on a mobile device. So this allows me flexibility, and also I can add background colors or images even to the column, not to the row but to the column. So I can add a background color, for example blue, and now only that part has a blue background. I could even do small things like adding a curve around it, and you will see that how we will use these curves and what have you, or like a unique column background color to create some of the look and feel that we are going after. But this kind of gives you a good understanding of how you can go inside of the managing layout by clicking on section, then into the row, and there might be multiple rows. So within this section I can add another row, and this could only have 2 columns, and in each of these columns I can maybe put text on one side, image on another side, and then you can again go back, and when you're in the row, now you have 2 different rows, and you can see that within a section you can have some really cool and complex layouts that you can create. Another thing that I want to talk about is getting to these editing. So when you click on something, it takes you directly to the text. When I click over here, it takes me directly to the image. But what if I want to edit the column, and every time I do this I have to do multiple clicks? And if we count the number of clicks, so I have to first click over here, click number 1, then the second one over here, then the third one is over here, and then by the 4th click is when I get to a column setting. Now that's a lot of clicks. And what we have done is we have devised a simpler keyboard method where if you hold the shift key on your keyboard, and then if you click on something, so right now if I'm clicking on it, it shows me the image. But if I hold the shift key and if I just bring my mouse around, see that other blue border outside of the green border, once I click on it, it takes me directly to editing the column. So over here I can change the width of the column however I like. So this is the quick shortcut, so I can just hold shift and it allows me to make those changes. Like right now when I bring my mouse over, it shows me that I'll be editing the video, but if I hold the shift key, it kind of selects the outside of it. Think of the video as a child, and the parent of it is the column, and the parent of the column is the row. And see, if I keep holding the shift, I can switch between the row, the column, and the element. So it just allows me, the shift is kind of a magic trick to get to items a lot quicker, to change the width of the column that you're working with essentially, and adding any additional items, for example spacing or even alignment. Sometimes you may just have I'll add one more row, and we'll do this quickly, where I have a row and it's just a one column, but I don't want it to take the whole entire width of the entire thing. So what I can do is I can hold shift and click on it, so I can get to the settings of the column of this particular one column, and then I can even change the width of it to maybe something like this, and then I can click on alignment and I can align this particular item in the center like so. And this comes really helpful if you have like a logo or like text that really needs to be in the center, and you don't want it to wrap outside. So something like this is really cool. Another thing that you can do is if I click on row, I'll add a 2-column layout. And in the 2-column layout, let's say if I add a logo on one side, and then if I add a button on the other side. Now what I want is, they already look kind of far apart, but I want them to go all the way to the edge. So I can hold the shift key and click on the column, and I can make it maybe a 3-column, and then I can do the same thing over here, click on the button and switch it to also a 3-column, and then I can align this to the very end. And this way it allows you to create that unique look that you see in a lot of navigation bars, where you have logo on one side and the button on the other end. So doing something like this allows you to quickly create 2-column layout, but create this space in between, or bring a column right in the center, or bring a column to the right, or move change the sizes of how you are creating your layout. And this is a whole lot of how this whole layout was created. You can see how everything is like a deeply nested row and column kind of a setup over here. So, and we'll go through this in just a few, but I wanted to cover the basics of how a section works, how rows work, and how columns work, so that you have more control over your layout and how you can manipulate it to your liking. Virtually any layout that you see on the web should be replicable inside this landing page builder, is the whole idea. So hopefully this gives you a good understanding of how that works, and let's move on to the next piece.